Hello everyone. Welcome. I'm Jon Binnie, your spiritual psychic mentor here in Scotland, and it's an honor to connect with you today and share in a safe and loving space the topics of soul fragments, soul retrievals, and also the practices that I do as a service for many people around the world professionally to help retrieve those soul fragments, including from places such as hell and the many layers of it, and also the void and past lives. So if you're of a nervous disposition or easily triggered by these subjects, please don't watch this video. And please, I encourage this video only to be viewed by adults. And please practice your discernment. Everything that I share today, I share transparently and in a safe space with love. This is not intended to trigger your fear or to make you worry about things. And if anything, I hope it brings you some concepts so that you can begin to connect with those yourself and feel into what concepts, beliefs, knowings that you have that help support you on your journey. Okay, so let's get started now. We will create a safe space for this session. I don't plan on channeling any beings. However, given the sensitivity of this subject, it feels safer for you and I to be able to create a protective space so that we're not being influenced by any other noisy or unwanted beings or energies during this session. Just adjusting my seat. Okay, so please join me as we create a safe space. And to do so, let's take a deep breath in through the nose, nice and deep. And breathe out what no longer serves our highest good, nice and loud. Breathe in through the nose, nice and deep. And breathe out any fear, shame, anxiety, or pain, nice and loud. And breathe in through the nose, nice and deep. And breathe out any remaining low vibration energy or emotion, nice and loud. And continue to breathe deeply and calmly as it feels right for you. And focus your attention now on the very center of your heart, where the golden divine spark of your soul and the source of love enters your human form. And from the center of your heart, extend a cord of light up through the top of your head, up into the sky and up into the stars, all the way up through the highest frequencies and dimensions of this universe, until you reach the highest dimension of the source of love of this universe. And there, connect in your light cord into the highest dimension of source. Feeling into that oneness of source, unity, unconditional love, a space of no judgment. Remain connected into source and extend your light cord down to the stars and to the sky, back down to the top of your head and into your heart once more. And now from the center of your heart, extend a cord of light downwards, down through the base of your spine and deep into the earth, all the way down through the layers of the planet, going deeper and deeper until you reach the very core of Mother Earth. And there, connect in your light cord into Mother Gaia's crystalline heart. And we send Mother Gaia so much love at this time. Allow her to send her love back. Remain connected into Gaia's heart and extend your light cord back up through the layers of the planet, up through the roots of your spine and into your heart once more. And just allow your heart to gently soften and open as you expand the light of Source above, Mother Gaia below, and your own light from the center of your heart to surround you about 2 meters out to each side, above and below, in front and behind you. And set the intention that only energies and entities with your permission, your highest good love and compassion can see you, access you, or exist within this space or within you, and that all other energies and entities must leave immediately. into your safe space. Invite in your spirit guides, your higher self, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Source, and Gaia. And we ask at this time for their guidance, clearing, healing, protection, and assistance with integration of today's messages and any clearings and healings. And also through space and time, I create a protective bubble around all of us that choose to engage with this video across space and time. And I set the intention for this session space that only energies and entities with our permission, our highest good, love, and compassion can see us, access us, or exist in the session space or within us, and that all other energies and entities must leave immediately. I invite in my spirit guides, my higher self, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Source, and Gaia. And I set the intention for today's video and our session space that we are here to explore the definitions, the concepts of, and share experiences in a safe manner of the topics of souls, soul fragments, soul retrievals, including the practices of as safely as possible, retrieving fragments from hell, the void, past lives, and any other spaces they may end up in. And with this, we will get started. Thank you. Thank you for participating in this safe space. It's so important to me that we do this work safely. So you might wonder, well, how did I get into all this work? So going back, I'm just getting my phone out because I'd like to share just an overview of the work I do to help give some context, because it'll help show some of the concepts and bring understanding to them without me rambling on for an hour and then introducing a concept at the end. So the first thing to make you aware of is I started out my psychic work for many years channeling my spirit guides. And once I'd done that for about 900 days, I remember that vividly, so connecting with my spirit guides each day, asking for messages, I then began on to work with doing what I called initially darkness clearing. So this was the kind of earliest version of what I call today my quantum psychic healing session, but it was also kind of merged with what I also call another new service. So I split these out later, and it's called negative entity clearing and soul retrieval and exorcisms. And so the work I've been doing for one-to-one client sessions, where I started about 5 years ago now, and I was doing one-to-one sessions as a hobby. So I was doing a couple a week, and then I then progressed this on until I went part-time, as my previous job was senior software manager at Amazon for 8 years. The last 2 years of that was part-time. So I started to ramp up the sessions a bit. And then finally in May 2024, so last year, I began this work full-time. And I've done hundreds of these sessions for people around the world. So if you visit jonbinnie.com, you can tell that hi, it's Jon. That's me on my website, jonbinnie.com, and there'll be a link in the description in the video. So if you click on bookings, that means booking things online. You can also book in-person sessions with me as well if you're here in Scotland, or you want to pay for me to travel to come and see you. And so there's a range of services: quantum psychic healing, which I talk about a lot. That's my most popular. Quantum psychic readings and predictions, hidden witch wound, past life healing, heart aligned business mentoring. That's quite new. Spiritual mentorships. This is ongoing, a package of ongoing sessions. And then at the bottom, we have this one here, and it's called Negative Entity Removal Soul Retrieval. And I don't use the word exorcism in the title. Well, not in the title, it is in the description. So it says soul entity removal, soul retrieval, psychic attack, protection, and exorcism. And if you're interested in exorcisms and negative entity removal, I did a previous video on that last week. So you can always check back through my videos on that. So in this description of the service, I describe a bit about the negative entity removal, and what I mentioned about soul fragments is that I identify and reintegrate soul fragments to help many people on their protected healing journeys. I work closely with Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, and my spirit guides. Then I talk a bit about the sorts of things I do, and it includes things like going to hell if required and back with my client to receive the soul fragment, and then work with my client to reintegrate that into their existing lifetime. Okay, so let's start with some of the concepts, right? So it's really helpful to first of all understand what a soul is, and this is the universe according to Jon Binnie, right? So you can go and explore your own belief system, and I encourage you to do so. You know, just because I do this full time and I've done it hundreds of times doesn't mean that it's the kind of, it doesn't mean it's your truth. It's my truth, right? So please do take what I say authentically and seriously. Just feel into the aspects that resonate with you. So let's imagine now. I don't. Well, actually, I do have a better prop. Hang on a sec. I'm looking for a soul prop. So often what I do in client sessions, this includes in business mentoring as well, and a lot of happy sessions, is that I will connect into my client's heart chakra and then work up to the crown chakra. So I consider kind of up to here very much the kind of human self, and that's meant to be the top of my head, right? Not just my forehead. And then from there, I'll extend up. So I extend a cord of light and I trace up to the higher self. So the higher self, I feel, is the highest aspect of us in this lifetime. And so there is one higher self per. This is, there are exceptions and variations to all of this, right? This is just commonly what I see. And I do see variations all the time. But this is just to help, you've got to describe it somewhere. So I trace up between about 1.5 to 2 meters, depending on the client, so depending on the human, up above, so 2 meters above the crown chakra, is the soul star chakra. And the soul star chakra is really where this highest aspect, the higher self, exists. Cool thing about the higher self is the higher self can be seen as a gateway between your soul, or gateway sounds a bit like gatekeeping, more like a conduit between your soul and your human self. And I also feel this connection with the higher self. Higher self understands a lot about your body, about your life. It's like they're paying attention to you all day, every day. And it eventually over time, and I've felt this significantly in the last 3-4 years with myself, is the distance between my crown and soul star chakra, that distance, the gap decreases as I become more and more of my higher self. I'm not perfect. I'm not an angel, right? I'm just Jon Binnie. And it's a journey, right? And I don't feel it's a destination to try and achieve, like, I want to become my higher self. I just feel I'm always becoming my higher self. So then after the higher self, as I trace up, and then trace all the way up to the soul. So from the soul star chakra up to the soul, there can be quite a distance. There's quite a big frequency difference. So let's imagine that this rose quartz, I believe, it's really beautiful. Will the camera show it? Yeah, it's quite good. And by the way, I'm recording from my laptop. This is the first video I've recorded with my laptop in this format. I did one John Reacts video. It's the first time I've used it. So it's with my new little 40 pounds webcam and my laptop. So let's see how this goes. So imagine this is your soul at the center. And I feel, this is what I experience, is that let's forget about linear time, right? So just take linear time, write it on a bit of paper, screw it up into a little ball, and throw it out the window, right? So we don't need linear time in this concept, and not helpful, right? Um, let's feel into a quantum universe where everything's happening all at once, right? That's much more true than linear time. And it's helpful for when we connect into the soul. So I feel the soul is a unique expression of the source of love of this universe. So source, some people, we all have our own beliefs, right? I call my God source. I feel source is a unity of souls. It is the collective unity force of love, and that I can also connect directly with it and talk to it as a unity collective. And that what happens is source births souls through lots of different mechanisms. And when source births a soul contains source love energy. It has a connection into source, and it kind of floats around. I can't think of a good sound effect for a soul. A soul floats around in space, in the universe, wherever it chooses to be. Okay, the soul then decides, I think it'd be really cool to have an incarnation as John, for example, right? So the soul will have that. I find it really helpful to visualize the soul as the center of a wheel. And then there's a spoke. I don't have any other props for this. I just use my fingers. So there's these spokes that come out from the soul, and each spoke is a connection from the soul to the higher self to the human. Or if we use it downwards, like I was doing before, my soul will be way above my head, and then it'd be down to my soul star chakra, about 1.5 meters above my head, and then the connection down into my crown chakra. There's also the connection into the back, your back, and into the back of your heart. And this is, I would describe, if you ever wondered why I start at the heart and trace upwards, if I want to have a chat with the soul, almost like connecting to the soul's mind and consciousness, I'll work my way from the heart up through the crown, soul star chakra, and into the soul. If I want to work more on feeling, healing, and soul fragments, it's through the heart that I will work. So I feel that there's a connection between, really the strongest connection into us from our souls is our soul coming down through the higher self and then in through our back, so into the heart, and it's the receiving side. So back of your heart's the receiving, and the front is giving. Okay, so you're probably wondering, great, John, thanks for the explanation, or John's beliefs and experiences with souls. You can also have, and this is important to say, your soul can have many incarnations active at once. So whenever, for example, if you wonder how past life healing works, it's because the soul has kind of, imagine there's like 2 spokes coming out of the soul, and 2, John, using too many fingers, 2 coming out of the soul. And, one could be my past life from 1888, and the other one could be right now. And that when I do healing, there's not just a connection between, like from human to higher self to soul, and past life, or what we'd consider past life, to higher self to soul. There's also a connection between the two, just like an actual wheel, like a wagon wheel, right? Our souls are like a wagon wheel. There's a song. And what happens is that when we do healing on one aspect of us, it helps with the soul healing. So it helps like down into the soul and back up to each incarnation, and then directly between each soul as well. Sorry, between each incarnation. There are other concepts that I don't really talk about or really engage much with. Some people talk about oversouls. Some people describe, different humans sharing the same soul. Go and explore these topics yourself, right? They just don't really feature in my experiences. And what I would say to all of these concepts is, I encourage you to use them as a kind of as a reference, as an additional data point to building your own concepts, foundations, and belief systems. Don't just take these concepts verbatim. And I encourage you to share with others, your concepts and belief systems, because some of the challenges as we have as humans, it's a bit like when I'm like last night, I shared a video on psychic skywatching. If I just tell you in every video what I feel something is, if I talk psychically to everything, it takes some of the magic away, right? Every time we categorize something, it's a satellite in the sky, or it's a plane, or it's a human terrestrial UAP. It's like whenever we put these in boxes, um, it constrains our thinking, and we become resistant to the flexibility and the true nature of reality. So I just tend to use these concepts as the kind of foundation, and then all the magic happens above it, right? And all the variations and exceptions and beauty. For all I know, you do have two souls. For all I know that you share a soul with someone else, I don't know until I meet you and work with you. And you won't know until you feel into and discover these topics more yourself. Okay, I have some more coffee. Okay, so I was just saying I was drinking coffee. Um, what's a soul fragment, right? Again, there is no limitation to how a soul can become fragmented. There's no, you know, finite list of scenarios that cause soul fragments. However, I have experienced many soul fragments, and I've had some variations of that myself, and I'll come on to those. Um, and then after that, we can talk about hell. So if you're wondering, like, I came to this video to talk about hell, and all he's done is talk about souls and now soul fragments. It's really important, because if I don't explain these things, the rest won't make any sense to you, right? Okay, so soul fragments. I'm not gonna break you. Don't worry. I don't want to break my soul crystal. Um, so let's imagine, right, that I have a past life. I have many past lives, right? I have thousands. So I have a past life, and let's say that this is all hypothetically, right? This is not actually real. This is not my past life, but it's, you could imagine this isn't like a million miles away um, from the possible. And then I'll explain about some real examples that I've experienced with clients. So imagine that my soul has a couple of incarnations. There's John just now, and then there's a second I mentioned when I was James in previous lifetime incarnation in 1888. Now he lived not just for 1 year, right? It was just a very poignant. That was towards the end of his life. Um, let's say that my past life of James, that he had a gift. Let's say hypothetically, let's pretend, right, that he had a gift that had this heart fire superpower, and that he could help people's hearts ignite, like help them, reconnect with their passions and the flames of the joy of their life, and really help them like reconnect with themselves. And then imagine that some bad things happened in James's life, and so remember, James is my past life. And what happened was in this past life was that he actually ended up harming some people with that same superpower. So let's say his loved one was attacked, and then he decided in that moment, well, you know, um, I'm going to seek revenge in that moment. I'm going to defend myself. And often what happens is, and again, this isn't exclusively true for everyone, right? But a common theme is, for at least half, right, is that the soul will observe. So imagine James's soul's like this, and it's connecting down through his higher self and into James. And the soul observes James going crazy, right? He's like, you hurt my loved one, so I'm going to hurt you. And in that moment, his heart fires, superpower ignites, and he roars like a dragon, rah! And he ignites this flame, this energetic flame. It might appear a bit something like lightning or fiery lightning coming out of his heart, and it hits the other person, the other human, and harms them. It either harms their heart and weakens it, or stops their heart and they die. In that moment, as the soul's observing, the soul's like, oh no, 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 no. Like, this is not good. We do not do this as one soul and many incarnations. This is not allowed. I feel awful. And in that moment, what the soul will often do is fragment. And so imagine a little slice of this, maybe 5% of the soul is then broken off. So this is the soul doing it, right? The soul is deciding, saying, ejecting part of itself, saying, no, I do not allow this. And why does the soul fragment part of itself? It does so because it's saying in that moment to itself, I will never allow any incarnation of me to yield that superpower again when it's clearly not ready to do so. Because every time the incarnation of the soul learns something, it can become a soul gift, a soul superpower, right? And so if you're wondering where you get all your superpowers from, likely you have some that your kind of soul's born with, and just for the fact that you're being a unique soul. And then secondly, it's also because you've developed them over many lifetimes. So, I often wondered, like, how did I talk to my spirit guides so fast? I just seemed to, like, just within 3 or 4 days of meditating for the first time ever, I could do it. But it did take me 900 days to fully accept that's what I was doing. Right? So it's like a superpower and a growth area together. Other things, exorcism, soul retrievals, I really learned it on the job, but very fast. Just within 2 or 3 sessions, I could do it. I'd remembered how to do it. So my soul clearly knows how to do this sort of work, including lightly the work I'm doing just now, sharing these experiences with you. And so what the soul does is says, right, that's it. We're not ready. So by we mean the soul's referring to itself and all its many incarnations, the spoke of the wagon wheel of incarnations. And so it breaks part of itself off. Now, in that moment, it's a traumatic experience, right, for every aspect of your consciousness and your existence involved. The incarnation, James, that, ignited this heart fire and hurt someone else may feel, terrible about it. They might even die in that moment. It could be anything, right? And what the soul does with that superpower by ejecting this aspect of itself, there's a few things that the soul can decide in those moments, right? Now, remember, notice a total lack of any other being like deciding any of this for us. So there's no God, source, archangel, universal rule that's coming in and saying you're not allowed to do that, right? You're going to pay. You're going to pay for those horrible things you've done. That doesn't happen, right? What does happen is, remember when I connected into Source during the safe space setup, I took a little moment to connect in with Source in a space of no judgment. And this is because the way our universe is created and balanced and harmonized is that there's also this whole subject of karma, for example, and then also life reviews. So a lot of people that have near-death experiences, and I have a dear friend that had a near-death experience, which is shared publicly about as well. And in those life reviews, so just as we transition out of our bodies at the end of this human body's working life existence, working life? What am I like? I will work till I die. Maybe, but that will be my choice. Um, what you end up with is, as your soul leaves your body, your soul returns. Sorry, your yeah, you can describe it as your incarnation returning back into your soul. Just using my language right. And as your soul then has the opportunity to reflect this life review, um, and there's lots of things happen, right? Like one really powerful aspect is that in a lot of people experience in life reviews, the reflection of what happened, and this is really important when we're about to explain the fragment, what happens with the fragment. In the moment where James, this is James, hi, I'm James, and this is like the poor person that he was attacking. I'm the poor person that he was attacking. Um, in that hypothetical, so this is not real, right? This in this hypothetical situation, James's life review would experience, right, both being the aggressor, so using his superpower, heart fire, flames and electricity, like shooting out of his heart and then attacking this other person. In that moment, James would experience both consciousness experiences, so both the attacker and the victim. And so that in a life review, if you're gonna fear anything, right, in this life, then pay attention to how other people feel on the receiving end of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Everything you do, right, has those thoughts, feelings, and actions, and other people experience it. And so this is what our souls get the opportunity to witness, right? It's like, oh, that thing I did, maybe I was trying to be really nice to someone. Maybe I was paying them a compliment and telling them how beautiful they looked. And then it triggered something within them about past life or current life trauma. And they had a horrible experience when I gave them a compliment. And some of these experiences are like really shocking to us as an individual soul. So we get the opportunity to reflect on those. So, and this is soul driven, right? It's not some archangel coming down to say, you've been a bad human, John. You're going straight to hell. It's not like that. It's much more the other way around. Our souls get to reflect and go, wow, yeah, I didn't know what like I'd um done to these other beings. And I've, from every animal I've ever eaten or mistreated to every person, the planets, just everything. You get to experience this, and I believe at a rapid pace as well. Okay, so there's a few reasons why the soul, it's not always just trauma that that trigger a soul to then decide to create a fragment. Sometimes it can be kind of like a soul stress or anxiety where it's saying to itself, you know what, if I've learned how to, let's say you've learned how to fly in a lifetime, and your soul's thinking, I'm not ready for this, right? No way. I need to like shut that down. I need to hide that superpower of flying somewhere where my incarnations can't find it, because I don't want them to inherit that yet. Um, and then there are also reasons such as karma. So the soul will get a choice, and the soul deciding to create a fragment as a way of accelerating karma. Now, I'm not going to go too much into karma today. If you want a video on karma, it's definitely like a whole subject, right? But you'll get some like really powerful insights in today's video. Okay. So then the fragment of the soul can be pushed down by the soul into hell. That's one option, right? And there's a few reasons why. To hide the fragment from containing a superpower, for example, as a way of self-punishment, as a way of an accelerated way of paying back karma, as a way of placing the part of the soul in a place where the other incarnations are less likely to go. Or you could also describe it that very few incarnations, right? Incarnations of us that are ready will likely, the probability is, it's not guaranteed, right? But the probability is it's more likely you're going to do the deep shadow work, face those fears, face those fragments, and do the healing. So it's almost like saying, if I throw this rock all the way down, the fragment all the way down, let's pretend this is the fragment. We can swap props now to my labradorite. It's turned black. Soul fragments aren't black, right? It's just a prop. But imagine that it sinks all the way down to the bottom of the ocean, and you need to be a really good swimmer, right? Only the best swimmer can reach all the way down to the deepest, darkest, scary place in the ocean and retrieve it. So these are the really important aspects. Sometimes, and often for good reason, the soul is scared about other beings who are actually hunting that incarnation or even the soul to go and find, to try and get that superpower and, attach to or possess part of the soul or incarnation to be able to then start to yield that superpower. And some superpowers I've seen, for example, would be highly useful to the darker side of our spectrum of light and dark. So, for example, I had one client that was able to retrieve souls from hell, and not in the way that I do this work is a fragment retrieval and integration. The client had a superpower of literally helping souls, like the whole soul that was in hell, leaving hell. You don't get out of hell for free, right? You still have to raise your vibrations to be able to get up out of it. But still, there's a lot of us have, we'll have unique superpowers, and sometimes these superpowers are attractive to other beings. Okay. Do you appreciate my putting you on mute while I drink coffee, so you don't get some crazy ASMR gulping sounds? Right. So let's get to hell, right? Perhaps it's helpful explaining what my experience is of hell, like the concept, the definition of it. Okay, I would describe hell as lower dimensional realms. Now, in simple terms, you could describe it as lower dimensions beneath, so a lower frequency than the third dimension. So you imagine this is the third dimension up here, and then it goes to like second, first, 0, -1, -2, -3. As you keep going down in these layers of hell, you go down lower and lower in frequency. And if you're wondering why I talk about frequencies, if you do a little Google and you search up for emotion to frequency charts or mapping emotions to frequency charts, you'll see, for example, that shame is right down towards the bottom of most charts. Each chart is its own truth, right? You get to discern what feels right for you. And then up at the top is love, gratitude, unconditional love, unity, up at the top. So these are the frequencies. Dimensions are frequency ranges. Okay, so that's why when you feel shame, you're much closer to hell, right? And everything is relative in this universe. So if you're an angel, right? If you're archangels, a lot of them I meet are around 12th dimension. So, and there's no limit upwards to the number of dimensions are. But downwards, there is a limit. It goes down to about -99. And this also reflects a lot with, resonates a lot with, for example, the temperature in the universe can only go so cold because at some point you just get nothingness, right? Whereas light has no limit to its intensity and its frequency. So, and it's, what is it, 270 something Kelvin? I keep wanting to call it Calvin. Okay, that's something else. Um, so hell is really a space where, and this is really important, right? Souls choose, shock horror, right? Our souls choose to exist in, either for a full incarnation or for a fragment of the soul to exist for a period of time, space, energy. And you're probably thinking, why? Why would you choose to go there? And you lightly, like I did before I started this work, have some preconceived ideas about hell, right? If you've watched movies like Constantine, with Keanu Reeves, uh, that movie, this is the second one, right? Or I don't know if it's out yet, or anyway, I remember the first one, other than the bowl of water and stuff, there's like a lot of parallels. I never knew that when I first watched the movie, but there's a lot of parallels with, or should I say, truths in some of the themes that resonate with my life. And it's really funny because only really now do I resonate with, isn't he called John as well? Probably. Or maybe I'm thinking of John Wick. I don't know. That's hell on earth, right? Anywho, going back to hell. Hell is a lower series of lower dimensional realms where a soul can choose to either fully exist or a fragment of it, and then to experience. And I describe these experiences as and I'll walk you through a soul fragment retrieval in a moment. The high level steps. I won't give you the full details, but the high level steps, because it's not really safe to just tell people what to do without. I do teach it in classes, but it's done differently to a 1 hour Hyatt's John chatting in his studio video about these powerful concepts. So, for example, a soul can go there. So, in the example of James, my past life, if he had done some harm and my soul had chosen to create a fragment, the fragment will choose a level of hell to go to. And you can describe that choice as really being a vibration, right? Just like you are right now. You're lightly around quite a similar vibration to me in a range where you and I are resonating together, right? A lot of people won't resonate with this video. They're like, John is completely nuts, right? Others would be like, this is too dark for me. It's too unsettling. It's too scary. Others, there's an infinite universe of people that won't resonate with this, and a finite number of those that will. If your soul is feeling, particularly shameful, like imagine the worst possible shame, almost the soul wants to fully eject that part of itself and never want to see it again. You can imagine that going lower and lower down the levels of hell, like -1, -2, -3, -4. It might go all the way down. It might end up, I have been down to level -99. It's rare to go down there. And there are beings down there. However, this is really a place where it's like the lower you go in hell, the greater the traumatic experiences that the soul has. You could also describe the intensity, the frequency of the intensity. Maybe frequency is not a helpful word. It's confusing when I've already got frequency as the -1 to -99 levels of hell. Let's just say that the pace of the trauma that a soul can experience in hell can be, really intensely, much more intense at -99 and much lighter at -1. I mean, let's face it, -1 isn't that far off the third dimension, right? You're like, some of you might be thinking, well, John, my past life, I was an angel and I came to earth and this is hell on earth right now. And it's true for many. Some people call them as star seeds. I tend to just describe us with having, very high vibration because just because you come from a different planet doesn't mean to say that you have a higher vibration than Earth. But other planets, there are many planets that do have higher vibrations, including those that we see in our night sky. And many beings come down really, from very high vibrations, like 12th dimension archangel level, or even higher, like a Blu-ray, or even up, really close up into connected into source and unity with source. And they want to come to Earth to come down really fast, right? And so just existing here on Earth with those deep, dark, heavy emotions that humans feel is horrible and toxic for such a high vibration being to experience for the first time, and can feel very shameful, right? So if you ever feel really shameful, I do, right? Sometimes I feel, speaking about it just yesterday in a video, I'll feel shameful about my lack. Like, look at all my abundance, and then I have a fear of lack, and I'm like, I don't really want to share that. Why do I have to share that with people? So it's those deep, dark emotions that pull someone and pull the this kind of frequency match of the soul fragment to a specific level of hell. And then once the fragment's in hell, what they experience, I describe it as, and it's a repeating pattern of, I feel this is a repeating pattern across all dimensions, right? We just happen to call hell dimensions below, like frequencies below where we exist right now. Like, who would want that, right? It's like third dimension is bad enough. Who wants to go lower? And so in the example of James, he may then go into, let's say he went to level, I don't know, -13, right? He goes to level -13 as a soul fragment. And the soul fragment, so remember, the soul fragment is not, it's not a past life, right? But it can be a representation, almost like, so when we visit that fragment in level -13 of hell, it might look like James, right? The soul might have said, yeah, it kind of looks a bit like James, because James was the incarnation I had when I did this bad thing and I hurt someone else's heart. And then what the soul also gets to choose. Now, if you've seen any kind of horror movies like this, it's like, they're really gruesome. But like this, what I describe as an infinite time loop. So this is, and again, this isn't a hard and fast rule for every single being. But what James would experience down at level -13 would be a kind of like a fragmented incarnation, where that same scenario I just described, remember we talked about in the life review for James, so the person he'd attacked, like seeing and feeling what it was like to be the victim. Except what would happen for James in the level -13 soul fragment version of him is that he would, witness his loved one being hurt, and then he would, enact his revenge. So this heart fire energy would come out of his heart, and then his consciousness would kind of switch into then feeling what it was like being the victim, feel that pain, like, oh, that was horrible, my heart was damaged, or their heart was stopped, and then it would repeat again, so go straight back to the beginning again. Now that's quite a small loop. Sometimes these loops are huge, right? Sometimes they're playing out whole sections or years of a lifetime, and sometimes they're very tight loops. There's just a whole range. And my feeling is what souls do is they get to choose the intensity, almost like how small the time loop is. Like, imagine going through that really fast again and again and again, and it feels like what happens is every time the soul fragment, are you still with me? It's hard to explain. The soul fragment of James at -13, every time he attacks the victim, becomes the victim, experiences the victim's feelings, then goes back to being the attacker again, that every time he's doing that, he's like, also, it's a way of paying off karma, right? So you can like pay off your karmic debt, your universal karmic debt as a soul, by repeatedly going through this. Don't ask me about the exact values, about how many times that would, I feel like every time is kind of judged, if you like, by the soul. And some souls don't just stop there, even though even when the karma is paid off, the soul's like, I still don't want that part of me back. I don't want that part of my soul to come. This is the whole soul, if you like. I don't want that part to come back up, because then I might repeat the same problem. So I'll just keep it there, right? So this poor version of James, even though karma's been paid off, and that could take a long, long time, years, maybe lifetimes to pay off. That it's still there. The fragment's still there, and it feels very shameful, right? For the soul, it's like, yeah, I've got a fragment in hell. Don't like talking about it. And I don't like making my incarnations aware of it. So that's definitely a big thing. So let's talk about some real examples. So I'd never mention a client, and I'm not going to just talk about one. This is clients over many years. There are some public videos I've done of soul retrievals. They're in the testimonials page on my website. If you're really interested in finding out more, then let me know and I'll share it. But I don't feel like overly compelled to share these videos. I mean, they're public, but to promote them in a way that kind of, what's the word, dramatizes or gets people kind of fear addicted and excited about these things. Oh, John went to hell in a session. It's like, yeah, a lot. It's a lot of there's many poor souls, poor people around this world experiencing fragments and going to hell and back without me helping them, right? Okay, so what I saw is I started to learn a series of practices, right? So I'm not going to tell you all the detail because it's not safe for me to tell you all the things I do, because we know who's watching, right? And no, I'm not worried about the elites or the companies that are watching this. I'm more concerned about the beings, the negative beings that don't want me doing this work, and that would seek to influence you or I in any way. So there's no point in going into too much detail, but I just want you to be aware of that. This isn't everything, and I'm not telling you enough of how to do it yourself. I do teach how to do this practice in my higher self intermediate training, and actually we actually go to hell as a class and back. And typically, not always, but typically, it's been to perform a soul fragment retrieval and healing for one of the class members, because they have said of their own, they've volunteered of their own accord that they have a soul fragment. And please don't tell other people that they have soul fragments, right? You can tell them about the concept, right? But don't tell them, hey, I think you have a soul fragment. Allow people to discover this themselves, just like negative attachments, demonic attachments, psychic attacks. Like, it's not, unless really you need someone to ask you, because we just know, like, how do our souls know, who we're to fall in love with, where we're to live, what jobs we're to get. It's exactly the same soul knowing. Your soul knows. No, it knows fine well, right? And it knows really strongly that you have a fragment. And if you're ready to receive that awareness, you will receive it. And I know from the last video, some of you may be triggered in a good way. I hope that this helps kind of bring some of those feelings. Because I'm not trying to just sell you the concept that you have a soul fragment, right? You don't need to go hunting for one if you don't have one. I describe it, so let's talk a bit about it. So client comes to me, right? They come, typically they'll just go ahead and book me on my website. So they'll look up this service and go, yeah, it's the one that says negative entity removal, and then it says / soul retrieval. They'll book the session and they'll say something like, I just have this feeling that there's part of me missing. I felt like this part of me missing for a long time. I felt like there's part of me suffering, and I don't really know how to heal it. And I tried all these different things, and I've seen all these different practitioners. Isn't it funny? I'm getting this static um, energy. Um, they've experienced all these different things, and yet nothing's really helped. And sometimes they might even have feelings that part of them is under constant attack, and that feeling can often be because you're getting kind of echoes of the soul fragment who's in hell and having a really bad time, right? They're going through a really traumatic experience, and it feels like it's the soul fragment, talking back up to the soul and saying, hey buddy, can we like get some help? Can we bring this to an end? Like I'm done with this, right? So that soul knowing, that soul calling, describe it most powerfully is often, again, not exclusively, but often it is a yearning, a soul yearning in your heart, and you just know it. And you might be watching this thinking, I didn't even know what a soul fragment was, John, but I totally resonate with that feeling, that yearning, that hunger. Okay, so a client booked me for a session. I then create a safe space. So they'll come along for the session. I do these live on Zoom, so you get to see me and talk to me. It's like, yeah, I'm really John. I'm a really real person, not just in videos. So many videos. There's also this the option to do a remote recording, so where I go to hell and back with you, but you don't need to be there on the Zoom call. So usually I ask for things like a photo ahead of the time, and if there's any clarifying questions I have about what you've put into your booking form. So you may say in the booking form, I've got this yearning. I feel like I've got some sort of fragment. It's causing me problems. I feel like it's a blockage. It's giving me nightmares. I keep having experiences of hell and I don't really understand what it is. It doesn't feel like it's some other energy attacking me or it's some other demonic force. It is part of me that I've lost. And so what we'll do is once I've created the safe space, I'll ask their spirit guide, okay, like, first of all, again, can you confirm, do they have a soul fragment? And almost always the answer is yes. Like this is the phenomena of this work, right? Where logically, it's kind of a logical, right? You can't logically say, and this has happened many times for me. Clients will hear about me in a dream or in meditation or from a spirit guide. They've never heard of Jon Binnie, right? An unusual second name, even the first name Jon, not John. They Google Jon Binnie, Jonbinnie. They find me, they book a session, and then it just all feels so right. It's like, well, my spirit guide sent me, so I'm here. It's not Jon Binnie spirit guides, by the way. It's the client spirit guides that do that. And so there's this feeling of like, yes, this all feels right, all feels aligned. So I don't have to go to like a checklist of like, here's all the things that you do or don't have. Because if we go to hell and there's no fragment, and that's never happened. In fact, we'll know in some of the steps I'll share in a moment. So safe space created. I asked one of your spirit guides to come forwards and also talk with one of the archangels that I work with, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael. And just to be really clear about the hierarchy of the universe, there's no hierarchy in my universe, right? We're all equal. Archangel Michael, for example, that I work the most with in soul retrievals, he is a warrior soul of dark and light, right? Very high vibration and also capable of accessing very low vibrations. And so I work with him, not for him, right? And vice versa. He doesn't work for me. We're a partnership, right? And I've worked with him as an archangel the most. So I know that not everyone, resonates with archangels. A lot of religions identify with archangels, and that's why they often get like the stigmatism, if you like, of religions. I'm really not religious. The closest I get to religious is my concepts of source and my concepts of a very small number of archangels I work with. I don't just work with any archangel. And I built those connections, those relationships with those archangels for years and years, because they're souls. They have their own opinions and their own beliefs and their own their own free will. Um, and their decisions aren't always super angelic, right? They're just like us. They have a whole broad frequency range. Okay, so in the safe space, talking with the client, talking with their spirit guide, talking with an archangel, and then I'll create a gateway. So it's like a room, a portal, and I step into that room, and then there's 3 doors in that room. Usually the door on the left is the high vibration future timeline. The middle door is the current vibration, so where they are currently. And then the door on the right is the low vibration. So this is the lowest vibration aspect of that incarnation of my client. So I mean, my client's the one that pays, right? It's the incarnation that pays for the session, not the soul. Um, and so what I'll often do is I'll check and see, right, do you have any connections going through that door on the right? It's not always true. You don't always see like a connection or a cord, but it's definitely like a telltale sign, right? It's like if there's a cord running from the heart um, of the client down through the right door, often under the door on the right hand side, like, that's interesting. That could be a connection, like a cord connecting to the soul fragment. Okay, so next, sometimes there is something blocking the door, a demon or a negative entity, or there's something kind of covered over the door, or like it's kind of feels locked. And this is often the soul or some other being saying, no, don't go there, right? You really don't want to go there. So anyway, with the consent, the decision of my client, and support with my guides and an archangel, I'll then, remove any obstacles for that door on the right, and then we open the door and we step into what I would call hell's elevator. In the UK, we'd call them lifts, but let's go with elevators. And it's really old, right? It's an ancient elevator, and we step inside it, and then we choose. So I'm guided to select it feels like the soul and the higher self. Isn't it cool? The camera's doing that, focusing in and out to select the level of hell. So then go and press that button, and then once the door was closed, so I have myself, my client, an archangel, one of my spirit guides, one of the client spirit guides, we all head down together to that level of hell. And it's a pretty grim journey, right? A lot of things, you can hear a lot of things and perceive a lot of things, nasty, horrible things happening to lots of souls outside of you as you descend through the levels of hell. In the case of James, we were describing going down to the level of minus 13. So I'd hit minus 13, we'd get there, and then we'd open up the doors. Now, I'm skipping out some of the levels of, this is why please do not repeat this practice. There's extra steps I have in here for protection and checks and clearings, and they're unique with every client, right? So please don't just copy this and start practicing on yourself or on others. If you want to learn how to do it, join my training series. That's the safest way I can. My higher self foundational training, higher self intermediate training. They're on the training section of my website. So join that, and it would take you about 16 weeks of training to get to this level, and even then you're just learning it for the first time on how to do it. And that would be if in a scenario you had the training running back to back. Okay, next we open up the doors, the elevator doors, and then I describe it as every experience of entering hell is different. It's always unique. I don't go to minus 13 and say, oh, I've been here before and it looks exactly the same. It's just not like that. So what happens is, once the doors are open, I'll often work with Archangel Michael to check, like, is the coast clear? Are we safe to go out? And if we are, I then set the intention, okay, take us to the fragment. So I'm going to speed things up, in part because the video is quite long, and in part because I want to keep this aspect safe, and us notionally, our conscious awareness being in hell, I'm going to keep that quite fast. That's also reflected in the sessions I do. So this part we do quite fast. So we'll identify where the client's fragment is, and we will all go there, the client included, right? We might have one of the archangels or a guide helping protect the elevator and a safe passage back. We then head over to the client's fragment, and we witness what they're going through. We heard of James's time loop of using his heart's superpower to attack someone, and then the consciousness flipping over to experiencing what it's like to be the victim, and the time loop repeating over and over for what. And this is important. Every one consistent theme is that the soul fragment feels that this is an eternity. They feel that it's never ending. What is the difference between the feeling of eternity and actual eternity? Nothing, right? They're exactly the same. Like if you feel in any given moment that something lasts for eternity, it really is eternity for you, for that consciousness. So we step in, and then we face it. Sometimes there's work to do to stop something attacking the soul fragment. In this case, we may be interjecting the time loop and saying, okay, soul fragment, James, are you ready to go? You're ready to begin the healing? And then importantly, once I've cleared off anything, create a safe space, sometimes a bit of battling to do with entities that are attacking the soul fragment, create that space around them. And then I get the client to bring the soul fragment back. The soul fragment can appear in any shape or form. I've seen soul fragments as a heart, and the heart alone, like a human heart or heart chakra. I've seen it as the inner child or the younger version. I've seen it as a past life version of any kind of size, shape, form, extraterrestrial being from across the universe. The fragment can be anything, right? Even just a shorter version of the current incarnation. It can be absolutely anything. And sometimes a baby as well. So whatever the fragment looks like, it was actually the other one, wasn't it? The labradorite. Whatever the fragment looks like, for the client to pick that up and to hold it. Rarely will I do the integration and the healing in hell. Sometimes that has to be done, and I can only describe that decision is made on a case-by-case basis in consultation with the guides of the client and an archangel. We then, if we can, right, and this isn't always true, we can't always leave by the elevator. And there's a few different reasons for that. Sometimes we can, and it's often when it's lighter, maybe the karma's been completed, maybe the soul fragment was only experiencing its own self-punishment and wasn't experiencing punishment from other beings, because there are a lot of beings in hell and they're not very nice, right, as you can imagine. So we might be able to go back in through the elevator and then back up to level 0, which is really the third dimension. Or we may have to climb our way out, and that is grim. I've had to do that many times, and I can only imagine it as like climbing out of the walls of hell. You feel like your body's being shredded as you climb up these like super spiky walls, and quite often you're being chased. A lot of beings start to notice you very quickly because you stand out like a lighthouse in an infinite void, right? It is quite a stark reminder of the difference between your vibration and the vibration of beings around you. Also, Archangel Michael, if he's with you, he's not like, they don't like him down there, right? They don't really like me there either. So they might be coming for you, right? And all I can describe is that you feel initially like you're being watched, and then quite quickly you realize that it's more than just being watched, that there's beings that choose to want to attack you, and you're going to need to protect yourself. So you may need to climb out along with, I may need to climb out with the client up out the walls of hell, and then we always leave out through that same door that we came in. So that was a right-hand door, the 3 doors. We then get into, once we've got up either through the elevator or climbed our way out, we'll then kind of recombobulate ourselves and I'll close the door. So all three doors are closed from future, present, and future highest vibration current and lowest vibration lifetimes. And I close off. There's a series of practices to closing off the doorway into hell. And then things can kind of calm down a bit. Right now we're back in a safe space. Typically, I do the healing and integration work for the soul fragment in the this kind of waiting room area where the three doors are. Sometimes it can be done back into the area where we started. So let's just say for now we're in the room with three doors that I entered through into the elevator and into hell with. What I'll then do is get the client to really address and face the fragment, and we talk. I channel some of the fragment, and typically there's a lot of tears, right? If you're ever wondering why I charge a lot for this service, is because these are traumatic services for me. Although for the client, they're often just incredibly, I'd say on average, they are less traumatic for them because they're much more, there's this constant feeling of progress throughout it, right? Whereas for me, yes, there's a feeling of progress. However, I'm in there to help them work through some of the hardest aspects. And I don't get quite as much reward as the client does, hence the financial cost. So in those moments, we'll find out how did all this happen? Like how and why did the soul fragment itself? What was it doing? What was the fragment doing down there? What's the opportunity now to bring this fragment back up? And then there's and to integrate. And with the integration, there's a whole range of different ways I do it. Totally depends on each client. It can range from bringing in source light and helping heal the soul fragment, so often get them to face the fragment, to face the current client incarnation, the human, and to do like chakra healing one at a time through both of them at the same time. I may get them to hold each other really close and to do more of a unified healing. There's also sometimes a lot of conversation that happens, and a lot of tears shared, and a lot of the client often wants to say a lot to the fragment about the sorts of experiences that they had. And then finally, we'll work on the integration. I can only describe the kind of final integration as being after a whole series of healing, quantum energy healing, working with your spirit guide. I'll often have Archangel Raphael supporting me and giving me a second opinion about the healing and how that's going for the client. We then typically end with the client giving the fragment a big hug. There's also other ways, such as if it's a heart fragment, they may be holding the fragment against their heart. And we're always really, really clear that there is no other being that the client is accepting into them. There's no other beings from hell or any other dimensions. This is only the client receiving parts of themselves, part of their own soul. So that reintegration is really that separated part, the soul coming back to itself, no other being being brought in, right? And that has to be really, really clear and cleanly done. And then with that beautiful reintegration, there's then the opportunity I do a further checks, further healing. Once that's happened, bring them out of the waiting room and then back to the center of the safe space where we started. We're always in that same space wherever we travel, even into hell. It's just now we're back at the start. I do some final checks and we share a little bit about the experiences. Often we're both drying our tears, and it's a lot of tears of happiness, right? It's not like, oh no, I feel so bad, I had a part of me in hell. Yes, that was an emotion, but now you get to see the benefits of it. You get to reap the rewards of that very traumatic experience. So once I've done that, we'll check on any other healing the client needs done, any other objectives they want. And then after that, I'll close the session and we'll come out of it safely. And we just talk about the practical next steps. And often this integration takes several days. It might take weeks, maybe even months to continue on. So I'll get guidance from the client spirit guides about what are the steps that need to happen next to support them on their journey. Wow, we're an hour and 15. So So yeah, in summary, you if you feel into this, some of the themes, and I don't know if some of these are new to you, is that our souls get to choose whether they fragment. I've still never seen a fragment caused, like kind of sliced off by some other being. I've seen souls attacked, right? I've seen possessions attempted at a soul level. I've seen soul tribes, collections of souls or soul families being attacked. But I've never seen another being successfully carve out part of a soul and send it to hell. And the other thing is that hell is not a place of judgment, right? It is simply a lower vibrational reality where if you have a vibration of you that is that low that it can exist in that emotion, then your soul will choose to be there for as long as it chooses to be. Now you might be wondering, well, what about all the other souls in hell that choose to be there, right? What about demons? Like, what about negative entities of all kinds that want to be in hell? Well, every being gets to choose, right? Just like we all get to choose right now whether we're watching this video, whether we feel happy and informed by the video, we might feel scared by it. Like we all get to choose how we feel, and that feeling dictates the level of the reality that we experience. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying I can just just logically saying, oh yeah, I just need to be nice and happy and then I'll stay in high vibrations. It's true, but you'll only stay there for as long as you're able to sustain those happy high vibrations, and you'll keep being called back to the lowest aspects of yourself, your fears and your shadows, and then you work on those, and then you can spend longer in your joy and so on. Right? So it's a cycle, the cycle of fear and joy. And it's the same with hell, right? Hell's not different really, other than the fact I just draw the line at this current third dimension and say, okay, below that vibration, below our current reality is hell. I did mention the void. It's a very similar process for the infinite void, except in that case, should we just do a different video on the void? If you want me to do a video about the void, because it's not just about retrievals from there. If you want me to do a video on the infinite void, because I've had personal experience of being there too, just let me know. And more than happy to. And past lives, fragments can exist in past lives. I guess what I feel is different about past lives is like so much is true for all the things I said, except they're not really fragmented. It's not that the soul is fragmented part of itself. It's almost like it's just isolated part of maybe the superpower from all the other incarnations. So it might be the heart fire superpower that James has. Soul might have just isolated that to that one lifetime, and then so it's not like the most effective way. It's not guaranteed that it's isolated from all incarnations. However, it does require an incarnation to go back to that past life and to experience, with the intention to experience that superpower, help reactivate and reintegrate. So it's not really a fragment, but it can feel, has a lot of similar traits, and has this ability of kind of silo, like to a degree. There's no such thing as really siloing energy. That's not real, right? You can't separate energy. But what you can do is you can kind of form dimensional barriers are highly effective, right? And also space and time is helpful. It's a bit like hiding, your phone 1,000 miles away from yourself. It makes it really hard to doom scroll, right? And yeah, dimensions are just fantastic for hiding aspects of ourselves, because you need the key to each dimension, as I've said quite a few times in this video, is all about those different emotions. So you need to be able to reach that level of emotion to access it. And you could describe, this might not be obvious to you, but for all the happy, high vibration, joyful feelings you feel in your life, you can't do work like this. You can't go down to those deep, dark shadows, or battle with demons, for example, if you're not able to reach those deep, dark, shameful access those and freely and openly those deep, dark aspects of yourself. So if you ever wonder why I wear black a lot, why I talk so authentically and vulnerably about me and my life, it's a huge part. Like, my shadow work is the foundation. Facing those fears is the foundation of my higher vibration work. Without the shadow work, none of this stuff exists for me, because I would just, you would see me, and this might resonate you with other practitioners or even people you see very popular on YouTube, etc., that I would come in and out of content creation, for example, because I'd be like, you just want to see the happy high vibration, John. So you'd just be like, for the moments I was feeling lower vibration, I would disconnect out. I'd be like, oh, I'm too shameful to share my feelings, fears of lack, not enough money, not enough resources in my life, not enough love. I'll just hide during those times, and then I'll only show myself in the happy times. And I'm like, no, that's not Jon Binnie. Jon Binnie's here you get the full vibrational frequency range of me. So it's an honor to share all those aspects of me. And I feel it allows me to be able to hold space for, without judgment, without fear, without kind of overreacting or like, oh my God, like you experience such horrific things. I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know how to listen to that. Like, in these hundreds, I just don't know. I don't count. I don't really want to count. Maybe even thousands. I don't know. Client sessions that I've done, the range of things that people have done to others and have experienced done to themselves is a massive range. And all I can say is, I always do this work without judgment, including the very demons that I exercise or the areas of hell that I visit and return from with my clients. All these aspects, they just are, right? And it's not up to me. You don't need Jon Binnie to judge you. Like, you've got, you and your soul get to do that yourself, not me. So I feel that's hugely powerful. Okay, much longer video than I expected, and it's ironic because Soul Retrieval is about an hour session, but I don't go into all the details about explaining all the concepts. We just go and experience it, right? There's no better way to do something and to feel it, right? So there we go. I hope you found this helpful. I'm just about to close the safe space. I hope you find this helpful. I hope, my intention is that it is for education and bringing awareness, and hopefully it helps you get a sense of like, if this is really as deep and dark, as bad as the universe gets, it's not that bad, right? Hell is like a grim place, right? The things that our souls perpetuate to ourselves and the things that souls do to each other down there, it's grim, right? It is horrifying. Yet there's no God, there's no source or archangel or other force saying, you've been a bad human, you're going to hell forever. Like, the human doesn't even really go to hell, right? It's really the soul, it's part of the soul, and it's the soul's decision. And the soul gets to decide for how long, and whether they ask for an incarnation of them, one of the incarnation of the souls to go and rescue that fragment. All these things, right? I suspect many of you will have questions. If you do have questions, you can ask them in the comments. Just know that I'll, I'm not. You'll get an answer from my mind, right? Which is like, and my intuition. I won't be going into a safe space in a client session. If you so don't ask me if you have a soul fragment, right? If you feel you have one, book me for a session, right? I can't answer it outside of like just in a YouTube comment. And if you're interested in learning how to do this work, yes, of course, book me in for my higher self foundational and intermediate training next year. Just be aware those classes are small, especially, so it's 8 people maximum for the foundational training, and then 4 people, that's 8, 4 people for the intermediate training. And you can imagine with this work, it needs to be very safe and done almost at a one-to-one level. So in 8 weeks of training with a class of 4, I helps me build really strong connections with people and do all this work safely and as safely as possible and responsibly as possible, as much as I know how to. And thank you so much. I hope if you celebrate it, I hope you're enjoying your Thanksgiving weekend. I've actually got a weekend of rest and just some chores and DIY and clearing out some stuff from my garage, from my teeny tiny garage. um, and yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, let me know if you'd like videos on other subjects such as the void or other related subjects to this. All right. Let's bring the safe space to an end. Thanking our guides, our higher selves, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Source and Gaia, every soul that's participated in today's session. And I'm closing down any doorways, anything that any of us have opened up into lower aspects of reality or hell, removing anything that doesn't serve us, cutting away any cords, connection, contracts, or agreements, closing those doors, releasing those cords and connections, contracts, agreements, and asking you to remain in your individual protective bubbles for as long as you choose. And I'm going to close down the shared session space as I require you to leave that now. And I return it to source or never return here again. There was definitely some heavier energy in there. It was good to clear that out. Thank you so much. Please do. I know that I've talked a lot and it might feel like I'm coming a lot from my mind in today's video. Please do take good care of yourself and just drink as much water as it feels right for you and get as much rest as it feels right. And just allow yourself to gently, integrate these concepts and experiences that I've shared. Remember that we all get to choose our own truths. And this is the beauty of this universe, right? We all have our own unique truths. And please don't take everything I say as like totally verbatim. Don't just look at like, oh, Jon has whatever 1,000 subscribers. Like, it must be true. Like, it just is. These experiences and my truths just are. The experience I have just is, and the professional work I do just is, right? And you just get to choose what feels right for you. All right. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Sending so much love from Scotland. Love you. Bye.